Pentacle 3, Chapter 1, The Fool. It was a rainy afternoon in Hialeah's Savannah apartment complex. Its orange red exterior showed sharp cracks on the walls, and inside the apartment 25B, lived the infamous psychic Carina. Her home was currently being inspected by her nosy landlord, and she had been accused of having a secret laundry machine. And once the landlord's curiosity was satiated, she left Irina's house. Irina sighed wearily, and she looked at her reflection in her mirror. She pushed back the many folds on her face, and only her blue eyes had retained their youth. Everything else had withered away. For this she had to be thankful. At her age, she still didn't need glasses. Like every morning, Irina looked through the family finances. They still couldn't afford to move. Resigned to her fate, Irina placed a sign before her door. She was open for business. She waited and waited. There was a knocking at her door, and when she opened it, she was disappointed to see that there was no one out there. And just when she was closing the door, a cockatoo flew into her living room. The cockatoo was named Cassandra, and she belonged to the next-door neighbor. Whenever she felt lonely, Cassandra would fly over to inconvenience Irina. "How is life treating you, Cassandra?" asked the bored Irina, and she rested her weary hands on her wrinkly face. "The same, and you?" said Cassandra before plucking one of her feathers. "The same, and why do you pluck your feathers, Cassandra?" asked Irina. "I use my feathers for allegory," explained Cassandra. The cockatoo crumbled off her feather in her claw before throwing it. The feather gracefully glided across the living room before landing on the TV controller. Cassandra flew on to the controller, and she looked at her feather with a great intent. Irina too was staring at the feather as she pondered what the cockatoo saw in it. Cassandra turned on the television on channel 69, and she chirped with delight. She had found something to watch. Irina rolled her eyes, extremely disappointed, and she sat on the couch before stretching her legs. She closed her eyes a little. Before she realized she had fallen asleep, a knocking on her door awoke her from her catnap. Irina ran to the door, extremely excited by the prospect of having a paying customer. She had two visitors. One was a regular by the name of Carina, and the other was the new face, Eugenia. Both were sporting disguises, hoodies, and thick sunglasses. Since the start of her pregnancy, Eugenia's father was constantly monitoring her movements, and he was worried about his daughter using while pregnant, so naturally he didn't trust her to resist temptation without outside help. And both maidens were visiting Eugenia to get an answer to a very important question. Was the baby going to be born healthy or not? Eugenia didn't have the exact date of when the little being was conceived, and she also had doubts about the identity of the father. She had doubts of whether she should keep the baby, and all of her friends kept telling her not to ruin her life. And her fiancé also didn't want the baby, but he would support her decision to keep the child. "Welcome, Carina," said Irina, and when she saw the wisp of red hair and the freckles, she said, "And welcome, Eugenia." "So you recognize me," said Eugenia, removing her thick sunglasses. "Does Carina talk a lot about me?" "Sometimes. She's always complimentary," lied Irina. Carina had wanted to hex Eugenia for breaking up with her best friend, but she decided not to for the sake of the unborn child. Though if Eugenia decided to get rid of the critter, there was nothing stopping Carina from acting upon her childish, malevolent intent. Irina gave a tarot card reading to Eugenia, and she had two possible futures. The Empress was her ideal future. Eugenia would embrace motherhood and marriage. "And what is my other possibility?" asked Eugenia. Your most likely future is represented by the Hangman," said Irina. "That doesn't sound too promising," said Eugenia, looking at the Hangman card. "The Hangman is upright," said Irina, showing the Hangman in a standing position. "Your partner may not be ready for change, and if you try to pressure him, it would only make things worse." "Santiago said he was ready," said Eugenia, pouting while looking at the Hangman. Of course he said he was ready. He's your yes man, said Carina. So tell him, Irina, were you ready to be a mother? When I had my first child, I wasn't ready, and my Casiodoros turned out to be very easy enough to manage, even with his father's blood running so strongly through his veins. And when I had my youngest daughter, I thought myself ready, and Angelica was difficult, but I was able to iron her out her wrinkles. And whether you are ready or not to be a parent is irrelevant. Just try your best and learn from your mistakes and always ask for help, said Nina, giving Eugenia advice as a mother and not as a psychic. Eugenia paid Irina for her service, and now it was Carina's turn to get a tarot card reading, and she had questions about the sincerity of her boyfriend's words, and whenever Bruno told her that he loved her, she didn't believe him, and there was a time when she did used to believe it. When she did used to believe him, but now when he said the words, it sounded completely dispassionate. This is Bruno's soul card, the Hierophant. His heart values tradition and conformity, said Irina, holding up Bruno's soul card. I already know that Bruno's a wet blanket, but does he love me, said Carina, annoyed at not getting a definite answer. Has he shown you that he doesn't love you, asked Irina. No, but he hasn't introduced me to his family, and his sister Rebecca practically had to ambush him in order for her to get to know me a little, said Carina, and whenever she's around, Bruno becomes irritable. It sounds to me that Rebecca is the person Bruno doesn't love, commented Eugenia. You have only been dating Bruno for a couple of months. It's too soon to talk about love, said Irina. But if he doesn't feel it, why does he tell me that he loves me, asked Carina. Because it makes you happy, said Irina. But it will make me happy if he truly meant it, pouted Carina. Once you have your heart broken once, it becomes difficult to love again. This is doubly true for someone who didn't receive proper support during their healing process. Give him time, said Irina, and Bruno had his heart broken by his first girlfriend, and even till this day he was still bitter and angry about it. How much time, asked Carina. If you don't want to give time for your relationship to grow, then why do you care if Bruno truly means the words I love you or not, asked Irina. Both made them paid Irina for her time, and instead of getting definite answers, they left with more questions. A half-hour passed after this visit, and there was a hesitant knocking on her door, and when she looked through the peephole, she saw a familiar-looking police officer. Kain, welcome, said Irina, hugging Kain before welcoming to her humble abode. Kain Sanson was a 23-year-old American who descended from a French executioner named Gabriel Sanson. He had short ribbon hair, cold gray eyes, and a vanilla face with even features. While his face lacked in interest, his body made up in tenfold. He was built like Michelangelo's David, and his girlfriend Eugenia had broken up with him 2 weeks ago, and by the looks of his haggard face and baggy eyes, he was still not over the breakup. He sat wearily before the infamous psychic Irina, and he extended his palm. Irina took the strong masculine hand, and it felt extremely cold to her touch, and she patted it maternally. Kain covered his face to cry, and his crying fit lasted for 20 minutes, and once he felt better about his miserable existence, he handed Irina $40. Irina accepted the money reluctantly. Do you want a psychic reading, Kain? Asked Irina, smiling sadly. I already know my future, Irina, said Kain, sighing wearily. He fancied that he was going to die miserable and alone. Come on, Kain, you can't sing like that, said Irina, squeezing Kain's hands. Are you reading my mind, Irina? Asked Kain as a sad smile appeared on his face. I am not a mind reader. Mind reading is a power of the elves, said Irina, and she knew that Kain liked fantasy, so she would ham up her act in order to amuse her client. A feather gently landed before him, and he picked it up to analyze it, and he jumped out of his seat when Cassandra flew into his face. Is she your animal familiar? Asked Kain. Nah, she's a neighbor's pet, and she stops by whenever she's feeling lonely. Her owners are not always at home, explained Irina. Cassandra lifted her feather before nodding, and Kain petted the cockatoo, and this succeeded in bettering his mood. In the end, he decided to get a psychic reading. I have a blind date today. Should I go to it, or am I going to meet another woman completely incapable of loving me? Asked Kain. Irina threw the cards, and the deck was no longer in a talking mood, but it did provide this observation. Kain's heart right now was like a closed fist, and he left Irina's apartment in a contemplative move, and he looked at his closed fist. This represented his current emotional state. A closed fist can only attack or defend. It is incapable of writing, drawing, cooking, or of any type of productive activities. To regain some sense of normalcy, he needed to soften. This was easier said than done. Kain drove back home to get ready for his blind date, and before he even turned the key, his father Jack had opened the door. Jack was a failed rockstar and a former addict, and the 34-year-old man was the polar opposite of his son. Jack was sickly, skinny, short, and with a long face and delicate lady fingers and big buggy eyes. His face reminded Kain of a horse. Kain forced a fake smile before entering within, and this fake smile didn't fool his father, and based on the redness of his son's eyes, Jack could tell that his big baby had been crying again. Jack couldn't understand why his son was still pining for Eugenia, and they had only dated for a few months, and during that time the woman had openly cheated on Kain. And from day one she had told Kain that she only wanted a casual relationship, and the fact that Eugenia was the nicest girl that Kain had, sad fact was that Eugenia was the nicest girlfriend that Kain had ever had. And when he would weep, she would console him, and when he was in a good mood, they would party together. The two would talk about any topic without the conversation turning into a shouting match, and Kain had fallen in love, so Eugenia had set him free with the hope that he would find a woman willing to commit to him. Kain gave a cursory review to his living room. The furniture was postmodern with metal glassy accents, and he had chosen that look for his house since it was the cheapest, most comfortable furniture he found in the store. And he walked past the living room to the small hallway, and he passed first by his father's bedroom, and beside it was his grandma Esther's bedroom, and at the end of the hallway there was his master's bedroom. It was neatly organized, a little too organized for a bedroom of a man. Kain saw that his pencil was misaligned with the table, and he took 2 minutes to fix the displaced pencil. He entered his recently remodeled bathroom, and the walls and floors were covered in granite, and instead of a curtain, the shower had a clear glass sheet. Now everyone that entered the bathroom could see him showering, and he straight down and he opened the faucet, and the cold water falling on his temple helped soothe his frayed nerves. When he left his shower, he saw his clothing laid out for him: black tank top, black leather pants, black hiking boots, and a silver chain and silver cuffs. Kain wasn't the type to wear jewelry or black, and his fashion was to wear the first thing that fell from his closet. It didn't matter if the outfit matched or not, as long as it was clean and comfortable, he would wear it. He changed into his black outfit, and his father had gone to the trouble of laying it out. All that he was missing was the eyeliner to complete the emo look. Jack entered the room with hair gel, and Kain sat down to allow his father to style his hair. Jack amused himself with the haircut for 10 minutes, and once he was satisfied with his son's look, the two were ready to head out. Kain sat in the passenger seat. He wasn't in a driving mood, and he had spent the entire day driving around Miami running errands for his Uncle Gen, the lieutenant in charge of the Islandia Police Department. Jack drove up to his brother's house, and they were attending the birthday of Gen's twin daughters, Hannah and Anna. The girls were turning 9, and the shooter's birthday parties usually gave Kain bad flashbacks. He was always a scary guy hiding behind his grandmother. The door opened before the two even had a chance to knock, and they were greeted by the patriarch of the Sanson clan, Kain Sanson, and after his father Raphael died, it fell on Gen to handle all of the family problems. He was 48 years old and already completely bald. He was obese due to his constant stress eating. Gen's eyes were black like those of his mother Esther. Kain and Jack had gray eyes like Raphael. Gen hugged his baby brother Jack, or Jackie as he liked to call him. "You're getting a little skinnier again," said Jack, squeezing the bag of fat folds of his brother. "And what crash diet are you trying out this time?" "I stapled my stomach shut," lied Gen. As of lately, he didn't feel the need to stress eat, and it was a relief that Jack was finally taking care of his son. And he hugged Kain next, and he said amicably, "Kain, you look cool. Are you taking your date to a rock concert?" Not really. I'm taking her to a nice restaurant, said Kain after he finished hugging his uncle. Boring, said Jack, shaking his son by the elbow. Go clubbing, go wild, live a little. Sure, whatever you say, Dad, said Kain, agreeing with his father to avoid souring his mood. Father and son surveyed the battlefield. The living room was a chaotic mess, with the parents running after their brats in a vain attempt to restore order, and beyond the noisy living room there was the pandemonium in the garden. The spacious garden was populated with mango trees, and Gena had gotten an inflatable slide and a bouncy house and a slip and slide, cake and sweets, and a gazebo for the party. King gravitated towards the buffet table, and he got a couple of snacks before sitting down to watch the madness unfold. And he looked with his calm disinterest at all the women assembled at the party. His plan, they must be one of those maidens. The birthday twins took notice of Kain. Hannah and Anna had their Stacy's blonde hair and their grandpa's ashen eyes. The girls pounced on Kain before pulling at his arm, and they wore matching fairy princess outfits. Kain threw his nieces over his shoulder before running about the garden, and his nieces stretched their arms as they pretended to fly. The girls demanded to be taken to the bouncy house. Stacy followed after Kain, and she was worried that he might accidentally drop them. And she was a petite, middle-aged, stay-at-home mom with deep blue eyes and silver blonde hair. Her entire life revolved around her daughters Hannah and Anna and her 13-year-old son Kyle. Kyle was already in the bouncy house, and he still had a baby face very similar to his sister, though his eyes and hair were the color of night. Kyle jumped towards Kain, and the two got into a jumping contest. Higher and higher Kain jumped as a shouting smile appeared on his face, and Anna giggling shifted position as she tried to touch the roof of the bouncy house. Higher, higher, Uncle Kain, ordered Anna, stretching her hand. Higher, ordered Hannah. Please, Kain, no, put the girls down, you're going to fall, ordered Stacy. Stacy's voice caused Kain to lose his concentration, and his leg gave way as he started to fall forward while carrying the girls. And he anchored his arms and legs to stop the drop, and the girls avoided disaster by coiling their arms around his head. The girls carefully left Kain's shoulder to walk around on the floor, and Kain sat up before rubbing his collarbone and stretching his shoulder. Mom, you jinxed us, complained Anna. We could have died, Mom, barked Hannah, shaking her fist. Settle down, princess, said Kain, hugging his little nieces. Let's play something a little less dangerous. Horsey, said Anna, pushing Kain down. Kain allowed himself to be mounted by his nieces, and he jumped enough forward as he made his way to the bouncy house. Since he wasn't jumping high anymore, Stacy was able to relax, and just a little. Kain continued to explore the bouncy house, and he found the ball pit, and there was a stair in the interior that led to the outside slide. And in the corner of the ball pit, they found a sobbing little boy. The child was curled up in a fetus position while he tried to make himself as small as possible. Kain saw himself in the boy, and as a child he would always look for dark corners to cry, and he knew that if he showed weakness, he would draw the attention of the bullies. The little boy immediately stopped crying when he saw other children approaching, and he cleaned his face before jumping in the ball pit, and a fake smile appeared on his face while he pretended to be having fun. Kyle attempted to make the approach, and the child froze like a frightened deer. Kyle was thoughtful, and he reached into his pocket and he brought out a whistle, and he blew the whistle twice, and this immediately summoned the family dog, Marmalade. Marmalade was a retriever sniffer dog, and she was 10 years old, honey-colored Springer Spaniel. She wearily made her way into the bouncy house, and Marmalade made eye contact with Kyle, and she then turned her gaze towards the frightened child hiding in the corner. She approached the child before sitting down beside him, and she furrowed her brow before whimpering. And the kid sat down in the presence of the Tsar Marmalade. Her name is Marmalade, said Kyle. What is your name? Jeffrey, said Jeffrey timidly, and he had a baby face, raven hair and eyes and pasty skin. And where are you from, Jeffrey? asked Kyle, sitting down beside Jeffrey. Lambert, said Jeffrey flatly. After this formal introduction, Jeffrey started to lower his guard, if only a little. He was in a desperate need of someone close to his age to talk to. Stacy summoned Kain out of the bouncy house, and it was time to meet his blind date. Kain's blind date was in the living room pacing about while yelling at her cell phone, and Kain frowned seeing this display of bad temper. The woman finished her call abruptly before turning to face Stacy. "Lysandra, this is the nephew I wanted you to meet," said Stacy, placing her hand on Kain's elbow. Lysandra was a new family friend. Both maidens had met in a parent-teacher conference, and the teacher was worried about Jeffrey's lack of enthusiasm while she complained about the twins' over-eagerness. And the mother struck a friendship over the mutual disdain of the teacher that dared to critique their little angels. Lysandra had recently turned 29, and she fancied that Kain should try dating older women after prefer serious relationships. Lysandra took one look at Kain, and she developed an instant dislike of him. She didn't like his stupid rocker hair or his outfit, and his eye was a little too imposing, and the coldness of his gray eyes gave her the impression that she was looking at a serial killer. "You are Kain?" asked Lysandra, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, and you are Lysandra," said Kain, stretching his hand. Lysandra shook the hand in order to be polite, and Kain answered Lysandra's interrogation without much enthusiasm. He could already tell that the woman wasn't into him, and after talking for half an hour, Lysandra invented a flimsy excuse to avoid the date, and Kain was neither surprised nor was he disappointed. He was relieved even. The only person unhappy by this turn of events was Stacy. Lysandra had led her to believe that she was indeed interested in dating Kain, and this sudden change of mind didn't seem right with the maiden. Stacy left Lysandra's side with her nephew, and she gave her nephew a comforting hug before bringing him a cupcake, and she always fed sweets to her children whenever they were pouty, and Kain said to the tree to be polite. His face lighted up when he saw his best friend Carina arriving fashionably late to the party. Alright, that's a good place to leave it. Bye-bye and God bless.